Field stabilized. Wanna turn up the heat? We gotta move.
It is April 11, 2013, and this is State of the Game. I'm JP McDaniel, joined today by Moonglade, Cats, and Artosis. It has been probably one of the craziest weeks, I think, that StarCraft 2 has seen in quite some time, from IPL being purchased by Blizzard to WCS things, confusion, whatever you want to label that. DreamHack's going crazy with announcements right now. Esports in general is just, it's getting a little insane, and I feel like we kind of missed out since we're the last show to talk about this week, and people might just be tired of it. But fuck it, we're gonna talk about it anyways, man. Exactly. So real quick, we'll kind of mention the IPL assets and technology being purchased by Blizzard. I'm not sure if we have all that much to say about it. For people that don't know, about 24 employees were hired. There was a Blizzard office open in San Francisco, and they're going to be creating web and mobile content as their main focus. There was also an IGN VP interviewed by Slasher. They mentioned they're going to kind of shift their focus into covering esports events, but how that coverage will be done is still up in the air. I kind of consider that to be the more interesting part of this. It's obviously a good thing that all those people that were kind of let go from IPL now have jobs at Blizzard. But I want to see what IGN kind of brings to the space, especially after GameSpot's been there for so long. And I'm kind of underwhelmed with how GameSpot's been doing right now when it comes to covering esports. Other than Slasher kind of doing an article every other week or once a week with some big news.
Do they have anyone aside from Slasher?
Right now they have one person, but it's kind of a passion project for him. And then they've got Slasher, and I think they've been trying to hire a couple of other guys, but I don't know if that's actually happened yet.
Well, Slasher is probably the only one that I've really read from, so I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, as far as I know, there's no other writers. They do have a show, I forget the name of it, but it's got Gutex, Travis from the League of Legends scene, and Slasher on it, which is kind of like I think it's called Game Center. It's like a weekly 30-minute Sports Center-ish type thing where they cover kind of all the esports over on there. But other than that, there's not much. And I really want to see what IGN can bring to kind of the esports world when it comes to covering it, whether it's hiring a bunch of people and actually sending people out to these events and doing video content or what. But do you guys have any quick thoughts on the IPL situation, whether it's Blizzard purchasing them or IGN looking to cover esports?
Well, it's really good that they got purchased and a lot of people got hired. That's nice to see that there's some more jobs staying around and stuff, more than we thought maybe. It's obviously really good that Blizzard is going to like put out more content. I don't know what that content exactly is going to be, but I mean anything that they add is going to be like of a high production value. They aren't going to put their name on something crappy, so something nice is going to come out of it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good point. Cats or Moonglade?
I mean, that's all fair and all. Like, everyone knows that Cat's Pajamas, like, Kevin Knock has, like, worked so hard and stuff, so I think that he's definitely deserving. I don't know who from IPL is going, and I'm really happy for them because, you know, there are people that have been in the industry and kind of chose the industry to be, you know, their homeland or whatever. It's like, you know, they're potentially giving out, like, giving up other jobs to stick around in an environment that's perhaps less profitable for them. But at the same time, I hope that Blizzard has sort of a backbone structure where they kind of, like, you know, train them and not just let IPL do whatever, because IPL is losing the head, so to call it, right? So I hope we don't just see a fucking crazy chicken going around, because I don't know how much experience or how professional the IPL employees can be. Right. In comparison to other people that might be better fit to do what needs to be done, you know, in order to actually put out quality product. I mean, like, IPL great, but all of their online content, it has never been great production value. So that kind of worries me a little bit, and I hope that Blizzard has someone in charge that's gonna kind of be like, okay, I know you guys are a hardworking group of people, I appreciate that you're in esports, and that's why we got you guys. But here's how shit is gonna be done around here.
I think that's a good point. I'm not sure. I know that kind of the quote that's been coming out of what Slasher has written about it was that David Ting was able to pick whoever he wanted from the team to join up with the Blizzard crew, and I would guess that he's kind of the head honcho out there, that he's in charge of the office still. I don't know I don't know how it's structured or anything like that, and I'm sure we'll never really know. Obviously,
Really?
that's not something.
Is that so? I would like I would like to know if David Ting is actually in charge. I think that would.
I mean, who else would it be?
Because a little bit more comfortable.
Cat's Pajamas is online director of director of online broadcasting. What was his title? I think he was like the one with the most prestigious title that was publicly shown. But outside of that,
Right.
the next level up, I guess, is Ting. I don't know who else is going to be out
but
there.
David Ting was vice president of engineering of IGN. So
Right,
he was.
right.
David Ting is basically. I think there's 5 vice presidents at IGN. So as far as IGN goes, I don't know if did they let him go, because that's a little bit.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
maybe that's a little bit of speculation, but I don't know. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head that everyone is going to be watching that San Francisco office, whether it's Blizzard proper down in Irvine, or whether it's just the general public, to see what comes out of it. Because right now, it's up in the air. No one really knows what's going to happen with that, except that there's a lot of hype. The general consensus from everyone there is like, oh, we're very excited to bring all this stuff to you. The Good Studio, I think Adebisi was talking about how they might be doing, like, they mentioned mobile coverage, so then immediately that goes to like Hearthstone, their new IP that they announced recently, which is kind of like their trading card game. But I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be, because when you look at North America, obviously MLG has the WCS NA coverage slot, but at the end of the day, there's only 2 casters there, so maybe IPL is going to have. Kevin, Cat's Pajamas, been talking about how he's going to be casting here very soon, and casting a lot. So, are they going to split the coverage on that? Is that, we don't know. Like, there's been no information conveyed on that front.
Yeah, I think they're gonna do something like that, because I mean, in the last IPL broadcast they did, they kind of announced to some extent, at least, some of us are going, expect good shit from us, and it seemed like Kibbles and Robin and Cat's Pajamas, who all did the cast together, were probably going there. So, I mean, if not as casters, I can't imagine Kibbles and Robin, doing anything else there.
Yeah, and I think that Kibbles, Robin, and Joshi are all now associate managers or esport associate managers. I think that's their title, which is kind of interesting because Joshi headed up the Shootmania team at IPL. Obviously, he does have StarCraft background coming from that scene beforehand, but he hasn't really been that much involved in StarCraft 2 in quite some time. So I'm very interested to see what they're going to do with him and how he's going to kind of fit into everything, as well as everyone else there. I mean, not to single Joshi out. Like, I really want to see what comes out of this office in San Francisco. I mean, they have a very structured team over there because obviously they all worked at IPL together. So it's not like they're going into an office day one, which I'm sure they've already been in the office for quite some time without knowing anyone. So they should just be able to kind of hit the ground running. But it is one thing to be said is, like, working at somewhere like Blizzard is completely different than working at like an IGN, So we'll really have to see what happens.
Yeah.
That's I would not want to be them because they probably have an insane amount of pressure right now from the public and from Blizzard to do great things. And if they don't do great things, then I'm sure stuff will change. Like, Blizzard's not a corporation just to let shit. Well, I guess I can't say that because then people are just going to be like, well, they didn't have land for 3 years, JP. What are you talking about? But Blizzard's just not going to let them sit, They're going to want stuff out of them. So, Moonglade, you've been kind of quiet. Do you have any comments on it?
IPL is probably the one thing I don't know much about. They've always on it at a bad time for me, and
yeah,
I don't really know any of the casters or anything, so
right.
I think it's a good thing that Blizzard picked them up. Absolutely, and I look forward to seeing what they do. But yeah, just have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's a good note because everyone, Dan or Katz, if you guys have anything else to say, here's your chance. But I think we should just move on to
Yeah.
WCS since
Yeah.
that's obviously the big thing this week. So, Katz, you made a post on Reddit. Probably got the most attention out of all the other WCS things coming out. Why don't you go ahead and start the conversation, and we'll just kind of see where it takes us from there.
Okay. I mean, it's more of what I was expecting of WCS. I think I was as excited as anyone when the announcement was made. It sounded really great. Like the problem is it's not an easy fix. You know, like when you think objectively and you look at the player list, and then you're like, okay, well that sucks for North America. It sucks for fostering talent. It sucks for, you know, a whole bunch of shit. And then you're like, okay, but where's MVP and Nesty gonna go otherwise? You know, so I don't know. I feel like putting and they did a good job at seeding Koreans into North America and not so much into Europe. I'll say that because you know, it's kind of like the seedings, at least they made a little bit more sense. Like I think there's 3 Koreans seeded into Europe, whereas there's, you know, 8 or 3 non-Europeans seeded into Europe, where there's 8 in North America. And that kind of makes sense because it raises the bar up, and North America is the weakest scene, right? At least in terms of depth. But then the qualifiers is probably the worst part ever, because, you know, up and coming players can basically just be expected to never qualify, and that's how players like, you know, like Scarlett, for instance, who I consider the best foreigner in the world right now, pretty much came to be. You know, that's how Scarlett beat like MVP a week ago. I mean, you need that sort of structure in place. And
why are you saying that players will never get in?
Up and coming players?
Yeah.
Because
isn't
now we
it
have
like 512 man qualifiers or something? Like
yes, for 8 spots into at least the first season. For 8 spots into the
the first season is going to be like really stacked. But if they're following GSL protocol, then the top 32 tournament, which is the really important one, is going to have 24 spots available each season, and then don't forget there's the league right below it that people are also going to watch that you can get into. So,
but Dan, do you think that those spots are going to move much?
There's 20 Koreans. There's going to be also C server coming over, and on top of that, you know, there's going to be probably China server coming over. So I don't see a North American winning the North American WCS, and I don't see a North American qualifying, or maybe one, perhaps if we're lucky, one qualifying, you know, for the first Code S, if you want to call it that. Yeah, and I think that's pretty sad, and it kind of defeats the purpose. Yeah, I don't know.
It does somewhat, but at least this first season is going to be like really exciting. When I saw the invite player list, I mean, you're going to see your favorite North Americans, or whatever you want to call it, whoever's in the North American WCS, playing against people like Nesty or Ryung and stuff like that, like actual like Code S badass killers, which is going to really help with the ratings and really help it look good. But yeah, with like you said, 20 Koreans went over, which by the way, it's like all people on foreigner teams. So that is an interesting thing to point out right there, because we kind of have been giving some teams a bye. Let's not forget Team Liquid voting itself once again the greatest foreigner team in the world because their Koreans won everything. You know, it's but it's kind of like that, right? So I don't know. It's a little bit interesting because how many Koreans would be there if they weren't on foreigner teams? And the answer might be like almost none. But the thing is that we haven't seen yet, because those are the famous Koreans. What about the kids that are in high school or college, or whatever, in Korea that are still insanely good that just signed up for the qualifier?
I mean, EGTL Koreans, or like even Axiom, they don't have to move out of Korea. They don't have to give up GSTL or Pro League. I mean, it's a pretty easy choice for the team managers. Like I myself, you know, I gave Yu-Gi-Oh and Sage the options. Yu-Gi-Oh decided to stay in Korea. He qualified for Code A like a couple days ago.
What a badass! Ooh.
What a badass! And then and then Sage decided to go on the U.S. And then we were like, we're opening a house in the U.S. That's where you're going. Now, if residency, or at least, you know, like, you know, what side of the world you live in meant anything, that would be so much better, because then you're talking about Koreans that are going into the North American scene, as opposed to Koreans living in Korea doing their Korean thing, taking the money over to Korea. You know, like I think that the only people who should be given the opportunity to choose which region they play on is Australians and Chinese and Taiwanese.
Well,
And
I mean,
Japanese.
let's say it is the residency thing, right? Let's say that it is like, well, you have to live in these countries to play in this one. Well, people can move over, but yeah, that's very expensive. They probably won't, which will make it what you're saying. But let's say for a moment that they're like, all right, Cats, we're going to do that. But Cats, we're going to put you in charge. What do we do about prize money? Because is it fair to have so much prize money in these other locations and have the vast majority of the best players in the world in Korea?
I don't think so. And no one's arguing against that. I even mentioned it in my Reddit post. I don't care if it's $50,000 for the North American scene. It will be $50,000 that are actually going to go back into the North American scene, as opposed to the Korean scene. Like, that's not how you help anything grow.
That's a good point.
You know, another thing, I was reading a bunch of the various things people have posted, and one thing that I saw that was pretty interesting, I forget who wrote it, sorry ahead of time, but someone mentioned the amount of taxes that are going to have to be paid for Koreans traveling to Europe and America on prize money is going to be 30%,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting. This could maybe in the future help balance that a little bit as well, where it's like, well, you know, even if I go over there and do well, the amount of prize money I'm winning is not so good. But is it 30% better than what I could win in Korea?
Yeah, I mean, you have to take into account as well that there's a World Finals where, you know, the best player is going to win. Like, you know, someone from Korea is going to win.
Life's going to win a lot of money, man.
There's that. I mean, and the World Finals is the biggest prize pool as well.
I want to talk about the prize pool. I'm trying to find the breakdown of it, but
I was actually in shock that when I heard that all the three prize pools are the same.
yeah, that's weird, and it's
Is
also
that not shocking?
you guys
Well,
think
it's
it's
no,
shocking?
I mean, yes.
I mean, well, there's Koreans in every
Yeah.
tournament anyway. Maybe like next year they can lower it if it's
But-
going to be more region based. I mean, this
Yeah,
time I
I-
think it's okay. It's
If they
pretty
make it
mixed up.
more and more offline, this is the problem. If America was the size of Korea, this would not be an issue because everything would be
Yeah.
offline. But
Well, I
Anywhere
guess
else
we got to
is
get to
besides
work on
Korea.
that, Dan.
we
Yeah,
gotta.
exactly.
There needs to be some
That's the whole point.
earthquakes or
That's-
something. I don't know.
exactly.
Like I said as well, like I'm not trying to push for equality. I'm trying to push for development. And the Koreans are already dominating every tournament ever. It's not like you wouldn't get to see the North American scene or the European scene play against the Koreans in every other tournament or in the World Finals. You would. It's just a matter of creating opportunities for up and coming players. Like for example, Red messaged me, or I messaged Red on Skype because he tweeted something like, I don't know, I don't even remember, but it was you know, it was before he read my article. He said that's how he felt about just like, you know, like let's not whine about it, let's just make the best out of it, kind of. But then, you know, he has to compete with 5 Koreans, and that's besides the point. But he's like, I'm like, okay, did you read it? And he's like, yeah, okay, I read it now. Like, I understand. Like, I fucking, like, I agree with most of it. And, you know, but you know, I gotta just practice and do the best that I can do. I'm like, okay, but you're a European seated into WCS Europe, and you're an established player. You already make money from Team Liquid. You already make money from streaming. What about the people that are trying to make it out of the scene? Like, if we don't start fostering growth right now for the European and North American scenes, how do you expect any player to be like, you know what, let me put work on hold for a year and give this a shot, or you know, take a semester off of school and see how I do? Like, Stefano didn't put med school on hold until after he won IPL 3.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying, but hold on. Because this is something I'm playing, like, part of this is devil's advocate. I don't necessarily believe everything I'm saying here, but I think this is a really good conversation. But let's call them by the GSL names just so that no one gets confused about what's what. Okay, let's just North America, talking about North America. 20 Koreans, yeah, okay. They're all going to get into the top 32 within the next couple seasons, right? Am I wrong here? Every single one of them is going to be up there no matter what. You know, the brackets, they might eliminate each other for a few seasons, but eventually they will all be in that top 32. Now,
Right.
that means that we're going to see it lower. Let's say that it is 20 Koreans and 12 North American types in the North American Code S, right?
Okay, there's also Chinese and Moonglade.
Moonglade deserves it. Come on.
Oh, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it.
He's
saying,
North
like, we're talking
American.
about-
Can't you tell? Look
I'm
at
talking
him.
about
American.
I'm talking about the North American WCS having
Yes.
a small. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so
I'm not saying Moonglade
let's
doesn't
say
deserve it. I'm
for
happy to give it
12
away.
non-Koreans, 12 non-Koreans in there. Okay, this is what really matters. Okay, because no one's actually going to complain that Moonglade plays in that. Like it doesn't. People want Moonglade there. So, so 12 non-Koreans up there. You're talking about the breakout. Now, let's say we take out every Korean, right? No Koreans in it whatsoever, except for people that live there. Whatever. We even take them out. Just no Koreans playing in it. Okay, well now the players can break into that top 32, right? Against the other top North Americans, right?
Right.
Okay, now that's what Code A is, I guess, right? Because now Code A is going to be this big group, even a slightly bigger group, and that's going to be what people have to break into, and that's going to be where people can raise up and be like, well, I am in Code A, and I'm kind of staying here. Overall, I'm hitting 2 or 3 Code A's a year, you know, that I'm qualifying for. That is going to have to be, like when Rhett said, make the best of what we have here. That Code A is going to be what they're breaking into, and that's going to be something that's I'm quite sure is going to be streamed and whatnot. You know, that is going to be a tournament that people watch. Like everyone watches Korean Code A. Like I am going to watch the Code A of North America. I'm going to watch it of Europe as well because that is where you're going to see people rising up. And as they get to the top of that, yeah, it's going to be hard to be in the Code S, which is the lot of prize money. But once again, you said, well, what if we cut it down to just 50,000 going back in North America? Well, that's kind of happening, right? Because Code A should have some sort of prizes, but not as high as the Code S of North America, which will be dominated by Koreans who actually are better and actually should have more prize money, right? What do you think about that?
They did. I think they already do though. Like not for this particular tournament, but Koreans have access to everything. There is no regional leagues right now. And WCS is supposed to serve that purpose, if anything. I think that's.
But,
I mean, just going by the names, I assume that's the mission, right? I agree with you to a certain extent. Sure, there will be Code A, but I would like to wait and see how many North Americans are actually going to make it into Code A, how many new breakout players you're actually going to get out of Code A, and how they're going to justify being Code A. Because this is not Korea, Dan. Like people in Code A don't necessarily have the stream numbers to support themselves, and sure as fuck they don't have a house or food to eat. You know, which Code A Koreans do. I mean, let's.
That is true,
So,
but that's something that I guess is going to have to be fostered. What I'm actually afraid about, more than anything, isn't the fact that they aren't going to make a lot of money. Because Cats, you played fucking StarCraft 1, man. All right, you know what you played a lot of StarCraft 1, making $0 over the course of years. So. Like people can get through that. Like you can be a college student and be in Code A. Like, look, I just saw that screenshot. Like Caliber's in college, right? And he beats Hydra on the ladder. It's like you can make it towards that. And once you get noticed, and once you get a bit higher, and you're getting close to Code S, then maybe you get more of that, right?
Yeah, but then how are we ever supposed to catch up in any sort of way, Dan? To get to, you know, not in 1 year, but in 5 to somewhat close to where we can compete. The skill gap has been growing. The first GSL,
that is true. That is true.
I mean, it's, you know, if like we have something that we didn't have in Brood War, and that's the audience. Dan, like in Brood War, the foreign scene was what? Like, you know, like we lived off of fucking nation pride and nation wars, right? I mean, like. And like you said, like people playing Brood War, at least foreigners, had to be like shit, like students and stuff like that. How are they ever supposed to be on anywhat of a competitive level, if anything? Like,
that is a good question, and I wish I had that answer. But that's like a theory crafting type of question.
But here's this is not theory crafting right here. Listen, like when they announced WCS. The owner of CLG, are you familiar with League of Legends?
A little bit, yeah.
The owners of CLG and the business manager messaged me because I said, you know, I want to open a team house. Because that was my first thought as well. Like as a team owner, it's like, okay, great. I have exposure to justify a team house now out of WCS and A, where my players, who I think are the best in North America, and I've always tried to, you know, take players in, like foster growth. I've always taken
Totally.
underdogs and whatnot, right? Now they may not have the best streaming numbers all the time, but I still take him like trying to base it on talent and whatnot. So now I have a reason to justify, potential sponsorships by opening a team house. And my plan was, okay, I'll move to San Francisco, I'll make it close to EG or NASL or Blizzard, and kind of start building from there. So that, like I said, in 5 years, we can have a scene at least similar to Korea. Maybe more teams will come. We can have a GSTL, a Pro League, shit like that we can sell as teams to sponsors. Now, I'm not the only person thinking this. The owner of CLG messaged me, and he was like, you know what? We want to do that too. And like, word by word, like, he was like asking me for help in terms of who to pick up. There were a couple of names thrown out, like out of North American, like, talent. Kids that don't get the chance. Like I would pick him up if I didn't have already 14 players, So I'm like, I would have picked that kid up if I could afford it, but I can't. So, hey, what about this guy, And then he's planning to open a team house with these guys and put money like from their team and their potential sponsors on their exposure back into StarCraft. Now, when the Korean list is announced, he messaged me. And he's like, you know what? I don't think we're going into StarCraft anymore because there's no exposure coming out of WCS NA for North American players.
Okay, no, I totally see what you're saying. And again, a lot of this is devil's advocate stuff because this is a good conversation to have. But I'm going to say some like hard truths about the way the Koreans and why they're so far ahead. They've already done what now it's like you're looking at it, you're like, this is tough. I am paying for things on a shoestring budget. I'm using duct tape to make computers. Like this is, and it is. It's a fucking tough scenario for you and other team owners. And to look at how far ahead they are, it's like it's a frightening thing. But if you look back to the beginning of esports in South Korea, for instance, players like Zelos and Boxer, and basically the top players, they used all the money that they won from tournaments, all their savings to pay for their teams because they weren't getting the right exposure yet, but they saw the future years down the road, right? So by doing that, they helped to build it, which is, it's not an exact comparison, but it's like, well, yeah, it is going to be really hard. But eventually they got it to the point where, okay, we actually all can eat ramen every day. And then they got to, oh, now we can afford rice, sick. And, eventually they were, yeah, you don't want too much salt in your diet. But no, I mean, they worked up over time, and so that's something that the American teams are going to have to, like, just, fight through Code and fight for the views and fight for all these things that Koreans did already do. And the thing is, from there, the Koreans built it even more by getting these team houses with the most ridiculous training regimens. Like, if people want to catch up, you're going to have to play like KESPA teams, not even like ESF teams, because they don't practice as well as KESPA teams. And we can already see that in the way the KESPA teams are catching up and now starting to surpass, in some ways, ESF players. And that's something that it sucks, but it's now time for the North American scene to start going through some of these ridiculously hard times where it's like, well, yeah, you don't have the money to get this to work. You have to find enough passionate individuals to get together and maybe sacrifice a ridiculous amount to be, the forebears of Americans catching up to Koreans, because they've already done it. They already had Boxer and Zelos and Nada and all these players that gave, like, literally just all their money for years to help to make it this, and now they rule the world. And it's like, well, we have to come back against that, and it is hard, but I don't know.
Yeah, but they didn't go up against this established scene. They didn't go up against the Giant. True. They were going to be against,
No, I know. It's it's a tall mountain to climb, but I think it's not completely unfair what I said. Not completely.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, like, regardless of WCS, my plan is to open a team house. It is to open it close to EG or NASL or XYZ, but I just will have a way harder time trying to justify it to my sponsors or to potential sponsors, and it's just hard, and it's not just hard for me. I'm happy with the money I make, to be honest, as a player, speaking as a player and not as a team owner. But I don't see many people like willing or being able to commit to this fully without, you know, the structure in place where I have a fucking team house and I can be like, hey, you know what? You know, we got money, so we'll put it back into esports. We'll put it back into the scene. You can come. Like, I already do that. Like, I have a Swedish kid here, Succeed. He's sleeping right now. Like, we found him on the ladder. We were like, hey, what do you do? He's like, oh, yeah, I like kind of work and do chores and then play StarCraft. I was like, well, you're fucking good. You want to just play StarCraft? Come here and I'll pay for your food and your fucking rent. So I'm trying, but it's certainly fucking hard.
No, I know. You're definitely doing more than most. There's no question about that. But
Moonglade, I know you've been one to talk for a while, so Moonglade,
yeah,
talk.
please, jump
I'm
in.
gonna interrupt Dan.
All right, all right. First thought in my mind was that you got to remember that this is year one of this tournament, and I think by the looks of it, they're planning to do this for many years to come. And they've already said that next year it'll be different, at least more regions, or I'm sure they'll get some changes going, considering what people have said so far. I think we'll have to just trudge through this year, deal with the Koreans in our scene, try and beat them, and give Blizzard all the feedback about how to grow our scenes, what to do, what we think needs to be done, and see if they change anything next year with it. And
Yeah.
also with the Korean scene being already ahead of us, we kind of have like a path to follow with our scenes. Like, this is how they did it, this is how good they are, and if we can follow in their footsteps, we at least learn from them now as it is, and we kind of know how they train, we kind of know all that sort of stuff. And though we might not have the same infrastructure as they do, at least it's a direction to go in. So I don't think it's not hopeless, and they do have really good players playing in like North American scene, like the seeded ones and all that, but they're all pretty beatable by foreigners, I think, compared to some of the monsters in Korea. I think we shouldn't give up complete hope, but it's going to be very hard this year.
So
that is true.
let me throw out like a hypothetical situation. A year from now, how much of a stretch is it to imagine WCS, NA, Europe, and Korea all have 32 Koreans in them? Is that something like
I don't think that'll happen.
I don't think that will happen because they'll stop it, because we're having this talk right now.
Yeah.
But if the system stayed the same, I think that would be the most likely case scenario.
Now, hold on. I want to go a little bit of a different direction right here, because I've been like really busy the last few days. I haven't been able to think of this too much. But with this format, you're talking about like the amount of views. Hold on. This is coming to me slowly but surely. It's like things are connected in my brain right now. You're talking about the breakout thing, and I mentioned Code A is kind of going to have to be what you were talking about before. More people should be watching WCS NA because it does have Koreans in it, because they do. I think that the tournament with Koreans in it is going to get more eyes on it than the tournament without Koreans in it by a sizable amount. I think that is absolutely true. Hardcore as hell people like you and me, Cats, might watch with just Americans in it. And in fact, I said I will watch Code A, and I don't think that'll have any Koreans after a little bit. Mm-hmm. But the views are like... The views are there for the quality of players. Like, the Korean ones still should be getting the most views, and the other ones are going to fill in. But the Koreans should bring more views, which should bring more exposure, because how many people actually get to watch Root players? Root has some great players, but how many people actually get their eyes on that? You're going to actually be getting more people watching that, and I think, because all these Koreans are coming over and invading the North American scene. It's going to bring more eyes, because it's like, oh shit, Nest, oh my god, the Axiom team, Violet, this is great.
I don't know if you can base...
Did you cut off?
No, I just...
No, his statement was done.
Oh, my brain is still trying to figure this out.
Dan, I don't think that, like, I don't know if you could just base numbers off of who's in the tournament. Like, one thing that WCSNA is going to have to struggle with at first is, like, this is going to sound really shitty, but if you look at the casters, like, the best casters are in Europe and they're in Korea. Like, a lot of people are not going to want to tune into the stream and watch the casters in North America that we have. Like,
it is definitely there is viewership has to do with production.
It has to do with everything, yeah.
The players in it and the casters.
I mean,
but this is a step,
OSL
right?
trying to. OSL had a better or a slightly like I think they had like a better 1080p than GSL, and GSL like streaming the same exact thing
Right.
had about 10 or like 15 times the viewers that you know the other brand. So
Yeah.
that's definitely true. But yeah, just to touch on Dan's point, shit, I forgot.
Well, let's what P just said there. If you didn't have the Koreans, you still just have the same exact casters and production level. So like, no matter what, the Koreans are going to increase viewership.
Okay, that's a very fair point. Very true point.
Yeah, that's but okay. Let's say like there's tournaments with little amounts of Koreans, and I think they're the most exciting. Say Home Story Cup, for instance.
Yeah.
There's that's the story that people want to see. Snood winning.
Yeah, you're cheating though. Home Story Cup doesn't count. It's a completely different type of content. That isn't even a tournament. That's something else.
Okay, let's talk about past dream hacks then, or tournaments that foreigners can win. Like I personally, kind of like I've been to many MLGs, and towards the end I don't really like. I usually don't stay for the finals and the semis because everyone that I root for is gone unless DRG's playing, because I fucking love DRG.
But Cats, if you were at home, you would probably watch it. Like the reason that you don't stay is because you're among friends, right? And you'd rather like go out and eat dinner with them than watch like two Koreans fight.
It's unfair to say completely that a foreigner can't win an A because I think Scarlet has a chance of winning.
Scarlet has a chance.
I don't think there's a Korean there that she can't beat.
That's definitely true.
I don't think there's a Korean that she can't beat, period.
Yeah, so it's like, well, same in Europe. Like, I think there's a reasonable chance that a European's going to win that.
Yeah, I mean, that's Scarlet, though. I mean, and again, like, I think that these players can be beat, but I don't think that upsets will happen where, an up-and-coming player can maybe beat one of them, and then I don't think he can do it 3 times in a row. That's kind of like let's take Scarlet for example, since you brought her up. At IPL, she beat who did she beat? Tyrius Prime? No, she beat Tyrius Prime.
Oh wait, no, she lost Oz, but it was really close, right?
Yeah. So she beat Tyrius Prime, and that's what turns heads. Yeah, that was a big breakout. But then she lost to Oz. Like she didn't, she wasn't able to make that big run, and she qualified through a playhim that had no Koreans in it. Now like. This was an example in my article thing as well, but imagine she or Lenok played that playhim. Like then all of a sudden like Scarlet never, it's possible that she never makes it out of anywhere because then
But that might also be on the tournament to provide that hype.
In the big ass qualifier that leads into Code A, Lenok's not going to be in there. No Korean at that level is. Like, you can work up into Code A, and then Code A is going to be the area, I think, where you're going to have to make your name. And that's going to be like a similar thing to what you wanted, kind of, right? I mean,
I hope you're right.
I know it's not called the biggest NA league, but like that's like that's like what is it in baseball, like the Double A or something, where like
the minor league?
The players that get fed in or something.
The farm teams,
to the major leagues or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I really hope you're right. I mean, but like then again, WCS EU was one of the biggest watch tournaments last year. So why is that not like that had no Koreans in it? Obviously, I think that storylines and like Minigun versus Idra was the most watched game of the MLG Heart of the Storm qualifier things because there's a story to it.
Yeah.
And there were fucking, Innovation playing fucking, I don't even know, to qualify. So, I mean, it's not just about the quality of the play. And just to touch on that, like one last point. Like if we don't start building now, we're always gonna be behind. Even if it meant that there would be a dip in the numbers, that would still like create opportunities for people to eventually become better. Eventually become competitive, and a few years down the line, maybe you can have a WCS NA with players that are actually good enough or on the level of let's say Scarlet to beat Koreans in other tournaments outside of that. But if we just shut the doors down, then how is that ever gonna happen? Like, even if it meant, even if you were completely right, and it meant that the viewership would cut in half, which I cannot imagine. You know, how are we ever gonna get past that if not with a tournament like this?
Maybe, but here's another angle as well. And again, a lot of this is devil's advocate stuff. I don't want like a billion angry people. But like these are hard questions that actually need to be discussed and stuff. And I do believe in some of the things I'm saying here. And I have talked to, you know, like for instance, the ESL Pro Series type stuff in Germany. I've talked to people. The European scene is a bit more segregated. They don't get as many Koreans. Okay. And I have actually talked to pro gamers that finish well, and they have mentioned, you know, between all the tournaments in Europe, how many of these Europeans are putting in anywhere near the training effort that a Korean is? Now, the answer is very few, if any. But the reasoning is, well, there's only so many Koreans coming over. At my age, my place in life, what I want to do, I want to train enough to be able to beat the other Europeans. Yeah, Hero and Tasia are coming, but am I ever going to beat them? No, I'm looking for a top 8, so I have a decent amount of money this month, you know, and that's like such a negative mindset, but that does happen. That absolutely happens, and without like a really steep, huge competitive thing, are people just going to be like, well, shit, look at this, 250,000 in North America or something, you know, and they're like, well, I just have to get good enough to get top 8, and I am good to go. You know, like that's something you have to really watch out for.
Yeah, but
Not many players are self-motivating just on they want to get their skill up to a really high level. Very few are really like that.
Yes, but very few get the opportunity to even do that in the first place, Dan. Like you say, like Koreans train harder than you know, non-Koreans, and that's I mean true on average. I'm completely sure, but that doesn't mean that there isn't people willing to commit. They just have no reason to do so. And I don't mean like oh, you're stupid, like you should just do it because like you'll get better. That's awesome. Like, I'll watch you. Yeah, but that doesn't pay the bills. You know, like, and again, Koreans have a system in place where the bills are paid for at least. So fuck, I'll give it a shot. I'm doing what I like. You know, this kid that lives here, say 18 years old, and he's doing what he likes. All he wants to do is be the best, you know, and now he doesn't have to work or do the chores. So, you know, I created that opportunity for him. I feel like WCS could, on a much greater scale, create opportunities for a lot of people that would be willing to do something like that. And I think it's incredibly selfish of people to say, you know, just practice. Just practice and you'll be as good as them. No, we don't have coaches. We don't have assistants.
No,
we don't
that's
have
very true.
houses. We don't have 10
just
teammates living
practicing
with
at home, you are never, ever going to be
yeah.
as good as the Koreans.
And we can't justify. And we can't, like most of us, I can justify it because I stream. So I can just not only justify it, but, you know, like live comfortably off of the money I make streaming, and I stream while I play. So it's like when people are like, oh, Cats, you should like stream less and get more results. Well, but then I can't afford it, you know? So if we're going to start building the infrastructure, if we're going to start building towards that, like we need the motivation to do that. And right now there isn't, and I was hoping that WCS would be it.
I don't know. I think it has more motivation than what you're saying. I actually want to hear Moonglade talk about some of this stuff because he's like in a completely different spot.
Yeah, but we're like even further.
You're talking about motivation in terms of oh, I did it. I played a lot of Bridware. You know, like I'm motivated. I want to be the best. But wanting to be the best, that's not the motivation I'm talking about. I'm talking about actual money. Because, and I'm not saying like, you know, like fucking dollar signs in my eyes. I'm saying they need to justify it. They need to justify, you know, like taking a semester of school. They need to justify, and I say they because it's not my case. I'm happy with what I got, right?
Yeah.
They need to justify, you know, like not being a waiter for a month or something like that for a realistic chance versus just because they want to get better.
Look, I get very well how hard it is to do that. But it actually takes years of making no money to be a pro gamer, and we all know that. Years.
Yeah.
Like actual years. Like you can't just be like, well, I want to be a pro gamer, and then you're like, where are my opportunities or something? It's like, no, it's actually going to take years of not making money. And, you know, that happens on the Korean side, that happens on the foreigner side. And there are things you can do, are things you can sacrifice to get certain opportunities, right? Like, I mean, Major lives Team A, right? That's a damn good opportunity. He's getting great practice, and he sacrificed a fuck ton, and he's been trying for years to get into these opportunities, and here he is. And
yeah, but Major.
the thing
I
is,
mean,
yeah, you have
Major's
to.
mom has always paid for his bills, so that's an isolated case. I mean,
Yeah.
like Major got the opportunity, but he's always had it good. I mean, he's always had the time without having to worry about eating. Clearly.
Well,
Whoa.
Well, I mean,
Shots
there
fired,
are
man.
other ways to
Shit.
do it. Like I was one of the older people that really tried to become a pro gamer in StarCraft 1, and you know, I would work for a certain amount of months, save all my money, and then quit for the rest of the year. And I mean, it's a terrible way to live, and it's hard, and it's full of sacrifices and shit. But it is doable. I want it to be better, like you do too. But it's not like it's a completely impossible task. Some people are rising up, and like and you're doing it in a different way. Like you're doing it through streaming and whatnot, which is cutting into your practice time. But you're in a position right now where you are making a difference for other players. You're making a difference for yourself. You are getting better and better and better and smarter at the game. I don't know. I do want to hear Moonglade though. Really, like.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should speak up a little more often, but it's
Nah,
really
man, it's hard to
interesting
get in here.
listening to this. Yeah, well, speaking from someone in Australia, where we have even less by far than North America, I can tell you, well, individuals with a lot of passion and are willing to sacrifice everything to put their name out there, to put their scene out there, represent, is necessary for this kind of thing to happen, as Dan said the Koreans did. For example, I don't make money. I make zero money. All I have is a sponsor that will send me around the world. So I sit at home, thanks to my parents, and I practice all day. And I get these opportunities to travel from qualifying or invited or whatever. And yeah, I'm trying to get more Australian players, or I'm trying to get Australia more on the board out there. I try and do well. And we do have a scene that's quite competitive down here, though you wouldn't think it, because no one hears anything from them. But we do have good players, and we have a few players actually that are passionate enough to actually drop everything else and just play StarCraft. Pig, for example, and Mafia, and there are some other players that put in a lot of time. But yeah, we're growing the scene very slowly. We have like a regular Australian tournament. It's kind of like MLG, but the prize money is really a lot lower. But yeah, I agree with Katz with everything he says about developing the scene. And like, I'm sure if Koreans were coming to Australia to take out money, it would be kind of fucked. But
Yep.
Didn't you guys have King Kong for a little bit?
But sure.
oh, we still got him. I
He's
gotta.
still there, yeah.
Yeah.
He's not pro gaming anymore. I played him on the internet ladder like 2 days ago.
He's pretty
Um,
good still there.
Yeah. So
But,
so let's say Moonglade 3 years ago, like when StarCraft comes out. Let's say 2.5 years ago. You know, your parents can't afford to have you fucking sitting on your ass.
Well, I was working until StarCraft 2 came out, then I quit and used my savings to live up. But
Okay. I mean that's fucking awesome. Not everyone has savings though, right? Like
No,
let's
it's true.
say
it's very
like
true.
let's like
Opportunities
what I'm
are
trying to
hard.
build is the infrastructure to where, you know, like people like you, like even if you have a little bit of savings, you can go, and if you can't rely on your parents, you can at least fucking give it a shot. And then I'll be like, hey, Moonglade, you're fucking good. You want to join my team? Come to our team house. I'll fucking feed you. Boom. I'm your parent.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's the ideal opportunities out there, and yeah, you're doing the right thing, man. And I hope more teams do it. And WCS, I guess first of all, we should be thankful that it's happening at all. I mean, Blizzard could simply just say, "Hey, GSL is
off,
pretty
yeah.
sweet. Americans are fucked. Let's just leave it at that." But they're doing this thing, and I think for the very first off, we should be grateful for it, and then
Yeah.
we should be like, "Hey, it's kind of shit for us because every Korean's coming over to take our money, and maybe down the track they can make it more region locked."
Yeah.
As they've said, they might be changing that. Obviously,
And
it's
I
not
think
good
that's how
this
it
year.
was too. My first impressions were only good. And then I'm like, like things could be better.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
agree.
everyone
mean,
agrees that things
yeah.
can be better, even
Yeah.
Blizzard.
Even Blizzard does.
And
Yeah,
even Korea. I mean, even
the
Koreans,
organizers.
Koreans, like they're cutting their prize money as well. I don't think anyone's happy. Yeah. Like
I think-
yeah.
It's just a big lesson for Blizzard too, man.
Like I can't even blame anyone. Like
there's
No,
obviously
well,
been, like-
everyone's trying their best right
yeah.
now,
The
but
thing I think
Yeah.
that everyone compares this to LCS directly, and they're like, well, LCS has, I mean, a reported $3,000 to anyone that's playing per month just to play in the league. Like, it immediately gets compared to that. So they're like, well, by comparison,
it's
this
really
is a
nothing like that.
this is a shitty.
LCS has been around a lot longer too.
but why isn't it like
Does
that
it
though?
not?
Like it's like the comparison is made because like it's
Well-
not like Blizzard can't afford it. It's not like it hasn't been done right before, and it's not like it's not a proven model. So why not, right?
No, actually, it's not a proven model because the League of Legends is a microtransaction game that makes millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of dollars a year, whereas StarCraft actually makes Blizzard no money. In fact, they lose money on StarCraft because they don't sell enough copies. So it's like a completely different scenario. Like Blizzard actually looks at it and says, "This is the best fucking game in the world, so we're going to support it with a ton of money." Whereas Riot's like, "Oh, we can make even more money if we do this," and it's like it's two very different worlds.
Well,
Okay, but
I don't
like,
think
mean,
that
I'm-
that's.
I'm
I think that's an
talking
unfair statement
Same
on
exact
Riot,
budget. You
but
can do
whatever.
I mean, it's not like they're not doing it. I'm not saying Blizzard, you're fucking broke. Do it anyways. They're doing it. They're just not doing it.
They're not
You
doing
know?
what LCS does. Is that what you're trying
Yeah.
to say? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's like I'm not complaining about it, in that sense at least. I'm just saying, like, if they're already doing it, there is a proven model with this probably the same investment that they're already making anyways.
I kind of get the impression that Blizzard kind of jumped into this too quickly without too much thought about everything, because there seems to be
Yeah.
straight up there's a lot of miscommunication with it, and a lot of people asking questions and not really getting the answers. And it sounds like Blizzard maybe could have like planned for like another month or something, and like maybe laid out more rules for regions.
I honestly
more
think
rules for
that they got
everything.
rushed by Code S. Like, they didn't want GSL to go
Yeah.
to too many seasons, so they had to announce this.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
That's how it feels too.
I think
Well,
that
notice,
everyone
like,
would agree that it
nobody
kind of got
announced
rushed.
anything for a
Do what,
while.
Dan?
Like they've been talking about it for a long time.
Oh,
because
yeah.
No one announced anything this year for a very long time, and it's obvious that is because
Yep.
WCS was still being hammered out. So
Yeah,
I mean, you
yeah.
have to start somewhere, which is, that's the part that people do need to remember. It has to start somewhere.
Yeah, this is only the start. I'm sure there's many years to come. I hope anyway, and I hope
Oh, yeah,
maybe
they have
maybe Australia will get its own region one day.
I'm sure they will.
perhaps.
Once they
You gotta
figure
keep
out everything
grinding.
else.
Keep grinding, man.
Yeah. yeah.
Some other things
But
to
it-
mention. Well, go ahead, Dan. I didn't want to move
Well, I
on
was
to the
going to
next
say,
thing.
this is one thing that I just want to make sure with Cats here. This, without doubt, this is a positive for the North American scene. It's not as good as you would like, but would you disagree that this is actually a positive that is helping no matter what
Not
else?
not in comparison to last year. No.
Not in
one
comparison
bit.
to last year. Last year being just a year that had like a ridiculous amount of tournaments. Is that what you mean
This
by
is
that?
downgrade from that. Yes, last year where local stories were created, where Scarlet rised up, where opportunities for North Americans to actually compete arised, and as a
one-
result, a lot of people improved. And
One issue with last year, because last year was pretty fantastic, right? We had so many tournaments. IGN decided that IPL was not profitable enough. Bam, IPL was going away this year. MLG realized that they couldn't run as many tournaments this year live. And so, bam, there goes a ton of tournaments that we had. And then suddenly it's like, what would this year look like without Blizzard pumping a ton of money in through WCS? Well, if I'm just stepping back, it's like, okay, so North America would have NASL, which is actually an online league with Koreans, and then also MLG, where normally we have about 1 to 2 foreigners cash.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I was talking
what
about
happened
WCS
last year wasn't
specifically.
actually sustainable. People were trying to figure out what the industry could do, and they did like a shit ton last year, but it turned out that, well, IPL is now gone, and MLG was not planning on doing, all the arenas this year or something like that. So I feel
Right,
like this is like.
I was just speaking in terms of WCS and the money, like how they
Oh,
used the
okay,
money
yeah.
for WCS last year.
Yeah. No, the WCS was pretty badass last year, but I think we've been over that a little bit where it's like, well, how many times can you have, a tournament for, this little country that gets 4,000 people on stream and
No, absolutely. Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
it's-
That's three regions was good for me. Like you don't need all the little ones. Like, fucking. I mean, not
What'd you
no
call
offense
us?
to Kapach, but Kapach is seeded into WCS and A by winning WCS Argentina. Now name another Argentinian player. You got 10 seconds.
and I'm
Phoenix?
sorry, which country?
Where's Phoenix from?
Argentina.
Phoenix is Peruvian.
Phoenix is Peruvian, and he won
Argentina,
WCS
I know.
Peru when I was living in the U.S., and that's how
There's
he got seeded
Kapach.
into WCS and A.
Kapach from Argentina.
Yes, other than Kapach.
Yeah, you're saying
I'm saying
other.
Kapach got
There's
got
no one
seeded
left
into-
from Argentina, man. There was like even in StarCraft 1, there's only like 4 players from there, and they weren't
Like Pato.
really, yeah, Pato. There you go. That's who I was trying to think of.
Okay.
Didn't Pato mean duck? That kid was cool. I liked
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, I mean, point being, you don't need like all this, little countries, even in Europe. Like we can just go like straight to the finals to some extent. I was happy with the announcement because it sounded like WCSNA was gonna be kind of jumping toward like to the WCSNA finals without spreading the prize pool so much. And WCS EU was kind of jumping to the but from the start, it's GSL format. It was an exciting prospect.
Yeah.
Still is, man.
And again, that like I didn't follow WCS Peru. I wasn't even in Peru. I didn't follow WCS Argentina. Don't give a shit about WCS Brazil. Blah blah blah. But the North American finals, I did watch, and that's where the stories are created. Like when Stefano won WCS fucking Europe, the fucking Lucifron and Vortex, the Moreno Duran brothers, like that story's born in WCS. Scarlet, fucking, it's
a good
because, but like now imagine there was Koreans in all those tournaments. I mean, Vortex and Lucifron would have. I'm sure they would have shown themselves eventually, but
Well, they always hit each other, so it would have happened. But like, no. Anyways, actually, this is a pretty good point. But something else is starting to connect in my brain that I want to try to get out of my mouth as best I can. You really favor a residency thing if you live there. So, like, let's say that all the Koreans playing lived in America. Would you be completely fine with this situation?
completely, yes.
Completely. Okay.
Because
Now-
one that would create a filter to some extent, right? It would show commitment from the Koreans. If you want to come to our scene, come. Like I mean, Select was basically a North American, right? Did anyone
he's
consider
American, man.
Select? Yeah, but I mean, but he's Korean. I mean, his English
No, I know.
is choppy. So like, but no one sees Select as a Korean. He was a North
That's very
American.
true, yeah.
So I'm completely fine with that. That's developing the scene. That's potentially like they're gonna be living in team houses. We're gonna be learning from them. I mean, one of the things that I want to do is bring Sage over to NA and have him fucking teach us how we should be doing shit in the house.
That's great.
That's how you
absolutely-
develop the scene. That's how we grow. I'm completely
think
fine
that's-
with Koreans committing.
That's fantastic.
What I'm not
And,
cool with is
it sounds really cool, and I wouldn't mind seeing that tried. Now I wonder because let's take Axiom as the example, because all the Koreans that signed up over here, except for NST, from what we've heard so far, are on foreign teams. I think they're all American-based teams. In fact,
I think
Yeah.
pretty sure.
I think you're
Okay,
right,
so
yeah.
American-based teams, all their Koreans are playing, and NST, and it's like, well, it's NST, guys. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He's won $300,000. So, all right. So, because of that, let's grab Axiom, and I have no idea about Total Biscuit's business plans, anything like that. Okay, but just to grab them as a team, right? Total Biscuit has a team called Axiom, and his wife as well, and they play in GSTL. He thinks that this is a good investment or maybe something he just enjoys, whatever it is. They play in GSTL, pretty good coverage, good league, all that stuff. He is living in America, and WCS is announced, and he decides, okay, I'm going to have my team play in the North American one. Now, he pays for a house in North Korea. I mean, North Korea. North America, Korea, oh my God. It's like suddenly Total Biscuit's dragged away to jail. He pays for a house in South Korea, which means he could pay for a house in America. He could do that.
Mhm.
But if he did that, they couldn't play in GCL, and suddenly, if he couldn't do that WCS and do the GSTL, which is, you know, he moved his team there, he moved them near where the GOM studio used to be, and they get to do GSTL, which is a certain amount of publicity, which is going to help him get sponsors and help him get a return on his investment. Now, if he had to move them to America, which is where he wants them to play, being his team, being an American-based team, and then he couldn't play in GSTL, then suddenly his team model is being hurt, right? So that's like kind of a...
I mean, he gets an option. Like, Total Biscuit actually commented on it, and he actually agrees with me on most points made. I believe,
I'm just using him as an example. I guess I should use complexity or something. I don't know.
I wish Total Biscuit was in the chat. He's sometimes around, but
Right.
I believe that he would actually prefer region lock, and he was like,
Well, I think he actually said that
Very
in the
upset when he
podcast he
came to
released.
yeah,
Yeah. I've
Which
heard
you
that.
guys should go
I
listen
talked
to it.
to-
It's actually really good.
I'll
link
you
it in the
should.
chat.
It's basically, it's basically like saying, you know, like, the option is there. Why on earth would I not take it when I'm already at a disadvantage by not having my players in Code S or Code A? Like, now, if GSL had started from, you know, 0, I'm sure he would have just had the players sign into to GSL. Now, the other thing is, like, when the players of Axiom got asked, from what Jenna told me, like, half of them wanted NA, half of them wanted Korea. They ended up picking NA. I mean, that is the obvious thing to do for a team owner. And
Yeah.
she was like, but I agree with everything you said as well, and blah, blah, blah. And eventually, they do want to move to the US. You know, but you can be consistent with it. Like, you have to make choices. I mean, in NA, we don't have GSTL. We don't have GSL. We don't have, you know, OSL. We don't have Pro League. We don't have any sort of that kind of thing. So if we actually had teams moving, we could start building. Like, that's the whole point. We're stuck right now, and that's why committing is important. Like, if you want a chunk of our money, that's fine. Then come help us build. You know.
Well said.
It's interesting.
It's a good point. I
Well,
don't think
you
has
know,
been made.
Based on that, you know, maybe Blizzard needs to say, hey, teams should move into this area, wink, wink, or something, you know? Like, because that's the problem with America. It's too big. You can't centralize it because the players are everywhere. You know, maybe... And I've heard talk of maybe there becoming some big generic team houses like GOM TV used to have. You know, obviously, we've heard talk from you and now Total Biscuit that they think about team houses and things like this. But they need to be centralized to really grow the scene, because that's really, you know, Korea like cheated in so many ways.
Yeah.
Like, just having Seoul is like, well,
Yeah.
I think
everyone's
that'll
right here.
definitely happen in
But
the
that's
next year or
exactly,
two.
like-
But it's
Yeah,
not going
I
to
think
happen
I'm
like
pretty
right away.
consistent with that. Like, I'm like, you know, I'll fucking say it 1,000 times. I hope more teams follow, and I don't have any, you know, pride or anything like that, and being like, you know what, EG, fuck you, I'm gonna start my own esports city. I'll fucking move close to EG, and then
Yeah.
and we can start from there. And you know, San Francisco, California in general, that's where most shit is.
Yeah.
Already, you know, there's Blizzard offices there, there's NASL there. Or you know, California's pretty fucking big, but you know, just you get the idea. Like, we'll find an area where we can start at least building, and even if there was a league, you know, like, I'm sure people would be fine to travel a couple hours by car as opposed to
Oh,
flying.
yeah. I know. I already have a vision in my head of you in a giant brown rusty van that you spray painted because you're a good artist, the Root logo, driving everyone down to LA from San Fran or something. It's like a touching thing, and I would love to see that, man. I really would. But I do think that this is, especially based upon the fact that IPL died and MLG cut back its amount of tournaments, this is actually such a good thing for the American scene, because there were not going to be as many tournaments this year as last, because last year was not a sustainable model by anybody.
Again, I would rather have WCS last year. So.
Yeah, well, I think that wasn't a sustainable model as well, most likely.
And it
I
wasn't
don't-
a
I
league
don't
like
think
this
that
one.
goes. I don't think so.
This one's going
Yeah, I
what,
know.
4 times this year? Something like that?
Yeah.
3 times.
3 times plus the grand
Yes.
final.
Well, that's a lot more than WCS last year.
Is the prize pool the same? It's a lot more, right? Overall, a lot more overall.
Yeah, I believe
I
it's a
think so.
lot more overall. But
there-
last year was kind of like it was only one. thing
Right.
with the
It was kind of
grand
just like a
finals.
grand championship without like the overarching global presence that this one has. On the topic of prize pool, ESFI released a prize list a couple days ago. It's actually been commented that the prize, like none of this information's been released by Blizzard, so a lot of people are saying like that the way that the prize pool is allocated with being very top heavy, like for example, 25th through 32nd place was reportedly $300. So it's actually just like $100 a month every 3 months if you get that. So it's not like you can't actually live off that, right? I think that was a big.
Wait, I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
It was $300 if you get 25th through 32nd. So Code S, if you get that,
Okay.
you earn $300. Like.
Is that what we have right now?
So this is what was reported by
That used to be
ESFI,
like
but
4K, I think.
but
Like,
Blizzard, like, they didn't say that ESFI was wrong. They said that the information that is out there is currently not, like, Blizzard's never said what the prize pool is actually going to be. So I'm hoping that they reallocate that. Like, first place is 35,000. That doesn't need to be 35,000 for a regional winner. Like, that could be allocated a lot better. And I think
Well-
that's why Blizzard hasn't said anything about EX. They're still trying to figure that out.
prize
How much
money
do
is
Code S
is
players
great and
make?
exciting, but
Do what?
They like
Minko?
make one every round. They make like a certain amount of money.
Oh, it
that's
definitely
the
goes up
way we
every
used to
round.
set up.
What was that,
Yeah.
Dan? Sorry, I talked over you.
I don't know what the setup is for prizes. I haven't checked a long time. I know the prizes for Code S used to be if you were in Code S, back when we started Code S at least, like, you could live off it.
Yeah. I remember, and like I think you used to get paid per match or something. Like if you got deeper, the more money you get.
Yeah. Well, that's any tournament, really. But
Yeah.
the,
Also, like you get like a end result
thing is-
money. It's like you get money as you go, sort of thing.
the living off prize money is not something anyone really wants to do anyways. That's why teams have always done things like give salaries in return for percents or something like that. Well, that's the
Yeah.
old team model. I don't think many people use it
That's
now,
old.
but
Yeah, I don't think
yeah.
so.
No, if you're trying to live off prize money, man, you're gonna have
Sad
a rude
life,
awakening
man.
one day. It's just
Yeah.
that's like
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty hard to do.
I mean, how many
Unless you
people
play
have
League of
actually-
Legends. Oh god. What else was some other stuff? Oh, I don't even know if this is like worth discussing, but I guess we'll just bring it up and put more pressure on Sundance because I love calling him out. The Muslim
No,
was
it's-
kind of
oh,
do
go
what?
ahead.
Do what, Cats?
No, go ahead. My bad.
I was just saying, the Muslim was left out for some reason for the North American player list, and Sundance has said it was looking into. I actually saw Alex from EG kind of pestering him today on Twitter. I don't know if that got resolved, but I thought that was kind of weird to
Wait,
not see him.
I'm sorry. Say that one more time. I was typing.
The Muslim got left out.
Yeah, he's
and,
not in the Code S listing,
Yeah, that
which
was
is
a
kind
bit
of
weird.
awkward.
That is weird. He's number 2 to Moonglade actually.
Yeah.
Hey,
There you go.
Foreign power rankings of
What
the
did-
Moonglade.
Also, is it weird to you guys? I don't-
Rank one. I don't know how, but I am.
Hold on, I gotta go check. Oh, there he
Badass.
is. Sick.
I don't know if this is
Like-
confirmed by anyone, but apparently MLG just like chose the top 32. Have you heard? Have you
Okay.
guys heard similarly? Like,
Yes, I kind of know how it works to some extent at least.
How did it-
From an unconfirmed source, but they basically take all tournament performance into account supposedly.
yeah,
But it's like offline tournaments or something like that, and then they grant points. So that's why the list of North Americans is kind of like weird and kind of shitty at parts, because it's like if you won WCS in your country or finished, in an okay position, you're pretty much guaranteed to go, because that gives you a shitload of points. And I mean, North Americans don't really go to many tournaments of the ones that they were taking into account, and if they go, they lose. So there's little to no points coming out from tournaments other than WCS. And then they took the ladder into account, which I find weird because the Muslim is both one of the most accomplished, and he's like always first on the NA ladder and has been living in the US for like a year and a half, or more.
Um, real quick question on this. Like I've played Hello Kitty, very good player, but who is Hello Kitty?
He's a very good player.
That's it. Like
So
maybe a different name I don't remember, or
nope, it's Hello Kitty. He is actually a very good player, but
yeah, no, he
got seeded from I think he got 7th at WCSNA. So again,
Oh,
or
okay.
7th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, that like
Okay, that
brings
makes
me to the
sense,
same point. Yeah, it's kind of stupid because there's like North American players don't have results like in big tournaments other than WCS. So WCS is basically the point granter, and I think that's stupid. It's another game. It's a year ago.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of. I think there was a lot of talk about people saying it's weird that the qualifiers didn't happen prior, like they didn't determine who was in Code S. And I think that the counter argument to that is, well, they needed a Code S so they could start doing this right away, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's kind of weird to just have them like chosen without like an actual tournament to decide that. You know, it's a little bit awkward.
Yeah.
Because here you have like the Muslim, and he's pretty fucked, man. They're not going to be like, hey, you're not playing WCSNA. Sorry about that. The Muslim's in, you're out. Like, they can't do that to some player. That would be really, really fucked up.
They can't. And there's some other players, too, that you could be like, oh, you know, like, I wouldn't mind seeing Pig in there. You know, Pig obviously very good. Illusion, I mean, oh, no, Illusion is in here. But no, there's some other, you know, Mafia isn't in here, and I bet you he signed up for that one.
Man.
Huh?
Yeah, there's a lot of players that can't or don't have like.
No, I know he's. I mean, there's some.
Caliber has been one of the most consistent North Americans at MLG. Caliber.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, is Puck in here? Or Leia?
Nope. She's
well,
not.
Leia's done pretty well in quite a few tournaments, to be honest. Like
she beat who did she beat last IPL? Nerchio, and then she lost 1-2 to Boom Boom Prime. And it's like, okay, so
she beat a Korean Terran. Who was it?
Maybe afterwards. I can't recall. I don't think so actually, but maybe I don't know. Well, point being, like,
I forget.
You know, she lost 1-2 to Boom Boom Prime at IPL 5, the hardest tournament we've seen outside of GSL.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, how does that not give him points? Like, there were people who qualified to IPL 5. Like, there was a very limited number of foreigners. And you know, like, I'm sorry, but like, just to plug myself in for 1 second, I don't think I deserve to be invited, but like, I qualified for IPL 5, and I think that is a shitload times harder than winning WCS Argentina, Venezuela, Peru, Colombia, you know?
That is true.
True.
Then again, don't forget those players had even less chances to prove themselves than the Americans do, you know? It's something to consider.
I guess they got to start with like WCS. I mean, this is WCS, so they might as well use WCS stuff. If they're gonna be subjective to like all these tournaments, then it gets a whole lot more confusing.
Well, it gets a lot harder instead of. I think harder is a better word. Yeah.
For my own curiosity, why did Snoot sign up for America?
I don't know. I saw that as well, and a lot of people were wondering why he did that.
He probably didn't take the Koreans into account. Now, what I'm thinking as well
He's
is,
like, gonna kill some Americans.
You know, like this system is so stupid that if all the North American players signed to play in Europe instead, they would actually have a better chance of qualifying to WCS as far as the qualifiers go. How stupid? I mean,
just wait until the whole world has fiber optics, and you just roll dice to see what place you join, because people just play everything.
The answer is stick around for about 30 years. then
I'll
this
still
will
be
good.
playing. I don't know.
StarCraft 4 will be out in the 3rd expansion. Some other stuff that, and I think this speaks to Moonglade's comment on how this all seems a little bit rushed. It came out earlier today. Well, it came out a couple days ago. First off, MLG was going to charge $20 for admission into the I think it was $18.95. I think is what it was, into the qualifiers. That has been redacted since, and now it's free, so that's good. And I don't know if that was because of
VSL or
So then the funny thing is, like, MLG announces that, right, and then the next day, ESL's like, all right, guys, we're doing our qualifiers and it's free. And MLG's like, God damn it, ESL, like, fuck you guys.
We all could have made a lot of money.
We all could have made a lot of money here. But
no, well, the GSL one is free. We don't charge anything for people to play in the qualifiers, so none of them, like, it should be across the line. If the prizes are the same,
it should be all the same format.
And you know, the funny thing is, like,
best of one or some shit.
MLG developed their system, and they chose how to invite players. I'm sure ESL did the same thing.
yeah,
As a result, you know, like ESL invited the Koreans that actually live or have lived or are connected in some way to Europe, whereas MLG invited popular ones, which is kind of fucked up.
and then there was some more stuff coming out. MLG announced that it's best of 3 double limb. ESL announced today that it's best of 1.
That's so dumb.
But then
Yeah, man.
what?
that the qualifiers are best of 1,
Well,
right?
it's not confirmed,
And
right?
then they're like, wait a minute, guys, it's not confirmed. We're not sure if we want to do this yet. We take back, like, this is how
Okay.
like like it's just so random. People are just like, let's announce this, and the community's like, fucking pitchforks are just like pushing them back in the office. Go back to work, motherfuckers! Like, we can't do this.
This is this is how you make things better. Tournament organizers don't always know this type of thing. It is true.
There should be
a
if
format
anything,
like
a
this.
fucking Skype chat with one ESL dude, one emoji. It doesn't have to be Sundance.
Like, I honestly
you know?
don't
one,
understand why Blizzard is not like, this is how you run the tournament. And it's even more weird to me. And I tweeted about this last night, and I noticed that the very next time you guys came back on GSL, you mentioned for the first time of the broadcast that this is the WCS Premier League, Dan, last night. Like, it is never referred to at all except by once, by the lead announcer, whoever that is, when he does, like, the introduction, that it's WCS. Otherwise, it's Code S everywhere.
I think it is still Code S. Like, it
They
is still actually
zoom in
Code
on
S.
the Code S thing and
It's
zoom out
so
again.
weird. It's like, it's supposed to be the WCS
Well,
Premier
I think-
League, but it's GSL Code S. Like,
I actually personally like I've thought about this as the commentator, and slowly but surely I'm planning on working WCS in as a more mainstay thing to call it. But I'm not just going to be like, welcome to WCS, and not
yeah.
you know, like everyone knows Code S, right?
That's very
has
true.
to
It's
slowly
a
but
brand for
surely
sure.
get it in there.
The sad part is there's not someone that asked you to do that. It's that you had to thought of it on your own. Because like we're trying to build storylines, like and
Well,
and we're
hold
just
on,
not-
hold
we're
on.
not
I don't
communicating.
I don't agree with that. If someone came up and told me how to do my job, as far as
I mean,
like
it's-
they're like, if someone came in, I know that you have actually helped to build esports from the ground up for 15 years, but I want you to say this about the tournament that you have built from the ground up for 3 years.
well, it's
I would
not
be
that,
like,
Dan.
"Why
It's
are
just
you
like, hey,
doing
Dan, this is the name of the tournament. And you're like, okay.
No, no, I
Yeah.
know what the name
It's
of the
not like
tournament
they're
is,
saying, Dan, you're
like,
I
I'm
know
a
you've
good
done this
person
15 years.
to help decide how to get that in there. I think, you know, like it's not just because you have a Blizzard name tag doesn't mean that like you should tell everyone what to do, right?
they should
you
definitely
kinda
have a
should.
say.
I mean, it's WCS. It's
Well, they should
made
say
I
to-
so.
disagree.
It's
They-
no
they-
one's gonna
it's
tell
a
you how to cast
partnership.
it. No one's gonna say don't say GSL anymore. But
Yeah.
there should be consistency within the 3 regions, and nothing's being talked about on that
No.
regard.
That we know of.
I don't think
Copy
they're
pasting.
because you guys are all
formats
starting from
GSL.
scratch in the other areas, so like it's not like you're gonna have to ease people into being like this is WCS, whereas Code S has been
Right,
around
right.
forever. So
It's true.
Yeah, I just thought that
Yeah,
was a
I
little
think-
weird. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think
It is. It is.
I'm not saying
Um,
someone needs to tell you how to do your job, Dan. You do a fucking the best job in esports.
exactly. Exactly.
no cats. Moonglade does. I love that guy.
All right, let's stop the circle
Too
jerking.
sweet.
No more circle jerking. All right, WCS, are we good until next week's shenanigans?
Wait
Hopefully.
and see what happens.
Yeah, like, is there any... I think we've covered all of this
Is there
week's
anything else that we
crazy.
need to talk about WSS this week?
It's just... It's weird, man.
It's an interesting conversation. I do like trying to figure out what this all means. Because, truth be told, you know, I'm sure we've hit upon certain parts, and each of us has said things that are correct in certain ways, but we aren't going to know 100% until it starts and we start to get a
It's one
feel.
of those things where you just gotta wait and see what happens because nothing's been completely explained yet. And
You know what's
Like,
weird though
yeah.
is like we don't. A lot of stuff hasn't been explained, but it starts Sunday in Europe.
Yeah, what the fuck? Should be
That's kinda
interesting.
scary.
It's just gonna
right?
be qualifiers, so it's like
Yeah, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
hopefully it's not best of one.
Like Total Biscuit, like one of
It's
his
not.
main problems with all of this was the lack of communication. Because
Yeah.
Blizzard, or MLG or ESL, whoever is supposed to talk to you doesn't, and it's
Yeah.
everyone's
Communication,
confused.
man.
Say just like, hey, the GSL people told me that you need to sign me up. I'm like, no, chill. It's not yet. And he's like, when is it? I'm like, I don't know. We gotta wait for How do I do it? And then I'm fucking asking, fucking Axel Toss since he works for MLG and poking at MLG employees. I'm like, hey, how do I? Yeah.
And not the best part. I guess the weird part is that I don't think it's poor communication. I think they actually just don't know. I think that's honestly what it is. Like, they are still deciding on a lot of
Yeah.
shit, and it's poor communication that maybe, hey, we're not fully, we don't know yet. Maybe that's what they should be telling people, but I think that's honestly what it is like they are still
To
trying to
get-
figure this out.
to get this many people across the world to work together, because
Oh, it's hard
again,
as
these
fuck,
are
yeah.
partnerships. This is not actually Blizzard running everything. This
Right.
is everyone is deciding kind of together and kind of alone, and it's like it makes sense why this is so damn bumpy in the beginning, but by this time next year it's going to be a lot smoother, and we're going to be able to
Yeah.
fix
Yeah,
some
I'm sure we'll
rules.
learn.
And
We'll learn a lot from this year.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everyone, players, organizers, everyone will definitely.
No, and I agree
Learn
with
from this.
with you, Dan. Like, I know it's a partnership and all, but Blizzard should be like, hey, I'm gonna give you all this amount of money, all this amount of exposure. In return, I would like for you to do these 3 things or something along those lines. It just seems as if they were like,
well,
hey
there's
guys, okay, you go.
There's definitely
do
some of
what?
that going on. Okay,
Do it.
like for sure, there's plenty of compromises on these sides as well. Like
Yeah.
I can honestly tell you there are plenty of compromises all over the place that Blizzard has asked for. Like OGN and GSL work together now, guys.
Yeah.
We have.
I think
we
that's
all
a pretty
cast
big
everything.
statement.
It's like
They got swept under the rug.
yeah,
That's a pretty big deal.
it's a big deal for
pretty
Korea.
deal,
It's a
yeah.
big deal.
One last thing before we cut to the break, unless we're good
Cats
on
goes back into the
WCS.
shadows.
Yeah, Cat's like retreats back in the shadows, puts his
Back
cloak
to
up
my
and shit.
cave.
Holy crap! That's
Oh
scary.
god, that's funny. We're good on WCS. Everyone, no one else wants to comment on anything.
Nah. Wait and
All
see
right.
what happens.
Till next week. We'll see what happens then. I don't even want to know what's good. I just want to say that if you guys are ever bored during the day, just open Twitter and just read some of the tweets, man, because it's been fucking entertaining as all hell. Just seeing these different people's voice, good, bad, controversial opinions, etc., etc. And I will also say, go listen to Total Biscuit's thing on SoundCloud. He gives a really cool opinion from a team sponsor / owner perspective that was very interesting. And I think the best quote from him was well, just go listen to it. I don't want to steal his quotes. Go listen to it. The last thing we'll talk about before we take a break and then come back and talk about tournaments and balance is I want to mention that EGTL's Coach Park is doing something right because
Yeah, it's kicking ass, man.
he comes in, they beat the first place team Woojin Stars, they come back and now they've won 2 matches in a row. Like whatever he fucking does, whether it's like put magical stuff into their water or what, he is just that team is. It seems like it's completely turned around from where it was in the beginning. Have you guys watched any of those matches?
Yeah.
I haven't
I'm
seen the
just
EG
fucking
ones yet.
rooting like for EGTL. Fucking Senior is playing so good again. I'm happy for that.
Can you notice like a visible change in the players? Is it more that like the players are preparing for the matches better?
I think they are, and I think they're not relying on their skill to win. I think what Coach Park's like, if I had to guess, Coach Park walked in and he was like, "Okay, you guys, I know you like to think you're the best players in the world, but we are gonna win, like whether you are or not." So,
Yeah.
because like the things that I've been seeing from them are a lot more on the side of taking risks in terms of gameplay. Like, for example, like Xenio switching into Infestors, it wasn't a train hard and you'll be better than this guy. It seemed like it was like, you know what? Do this shit because that's what's going to win against this guy. Aside from that,
part of Pro League.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they were lacking that part.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I think I think that like there's definitely more discipline to them, in the sense that that I think they're only streaming off race and stuff like that. So that only
that
goes
was pretty
to show
funny
you, like,
as well.
to a little extent that little changes are being made. It's like, oh, so your team tells you have to stream. And they're like, yeah, well, you're only streaming your off race then.
Yeah, it was funny. He
that
came out and like apologized to the
idea.
fans, and like now Hero, Jaedong, like JYP, they all stream their off races each day at a certain hour.
Yeah.
Like I think it's the 5 or 6 players all stream for 2 or 3 hours all at the same time each day, off races, which
And
is pretty cool.
The
Good idea.
mindset of the players is definitely a lot better. Like, I just saw this Tasia interview after last night, and he even mentioned, he said something to the effect of, not a direct quote, but like, he normally practices only on ladder, but he's come to realize that maybe he should practice specifically for an opponent now. And what have I been harping on in GSL so much about ESF compared to Kespa, and like, Coach Park just joined, and now Tage is like, well, maybe I shouldn't just grind on the ladder. And it's like, well, there you go. That's the mindset you're going to need to win in Pro League.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Aside from that, like also they picked up Alive and Os, so that helps. They're doing really well. I was expecting Alive to not be as good as he is. He's a fucking beast. And one last thing is they get a fresh start. JP, like, imagine all the pressure that the players had.
Yeah.
Losing and losing. It's like, that shit haunts you when you're in a game. It's like, well, shit. Like, I've been performing really bad. Like, I have to win this game, and that's what you're thinking about instead of the game.
Yeah.
Now this is a fresh start. It's like, hey guys, like, we can start from zero from here because like, anything that happened beforehand doesn't matter. I'm here now. Plus, and the most important thing I think is Coach Park looks fucking boss. Like, he's so
He does
intimidating.
look like a boss.
like
I know.
any fucking team that watches him,
badass.
it's like, okay, we're fucked. Like, you look at him and he's like,
Yeah. That's a disciplined man.
Yeah, and
He keeps his like little thing going on in his chin, and I'm like, man, that guy,
Yeah.
I want him to train me.
to be honest, like I
So
think
true.
that when EGTL like premiered in the Pro League, like there was so much attention on it, so many new eyeballs on the league itself because of that, and then the attention started to wane off because they started losing, right? But now, like, this is the best storyline that you could actually have in any sports, where like this team that's just in last place, like doing poorly, and now they're just like destroying everyone. So if they keep this up, like, it could be an incredible finish to that league throughout the entire course of
They're up
where we go
against,
from here till now.
I think they're up against KT next, and they've gotten 4-0'd by KT last 2 times.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think.
And is that match tomorrow night?
I think
Yeah, I
so.
think so.
I don't know. It might be.
Is KT fielding Hitman? Because I heard from one of my favorite casters that decides if they win or not.
They are. Who's Hitman playing? I can't remember. Or I'm not sure if they are against EGTL, but they are this playdate. Or yeah, I'm pretty
Okay.
sure he plays Roro though. So yeah, and yeah,
That'd be kind of hard, yeah.
yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's take a quick 3-minute break here, then we'll come
JYP.
back.
He plays JYP, I think. Sorry about that.
Uh-oh, JYP.
That'll be rough. That'll be rough. All right, so when we come back, we will talk about the craziest fucking night of Code S that we've seen thus far in Heart of the Swarm, which was last night. Go watch 3 minutes of the VODs if you haven't yet. We'll mention DreamHack, kind of the players that they've released, as well as controversial maps, as well as some balance talk right after this break. Do not go anywhere. More State of the Game coming up soon.